there's no gavel, so I can't. So I call this meeting to order, and good morning and welcome to everyone. This is indeed a pleasure, and you just want to sing, you know, how we did in school, you know, good morning to you, good morning to you, with all in our places with sunshiny faces, and again, and I just echo the sentiment of Robert and the lady that's sitting down. Barbara is when she approached me, she's the first one that I talked about. I know I didn't want to be the one to bring it up, but you know, it's just what a difference an hour makes. And so that's why we're going to 9 o'clock. And she hit me right in that little hallway when we had the at work ribbon cutting, and says, "Had you thought about?" I says, "I think about it every meeting." And so I said, that's going to be easy, you know. And so here we are at 9 o'clock. But again, and we know, and we have to assume that, you know, I know most of you are. Everybody is vaccinated, so we, you know, if you feel more comfortable with a mask on, that's okay too. But again, welcome, and I call this meeting to order of the Economic Development Authority, City of Portsmouth. And as usual, even in person, I think I'm going to continue, you know, letting Robert take us through the meeting to kind of expedite things through the agenda, that is. So we'll begin with the roll call.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. Again, Mr. Barber.
Here.
Ms. Drury.
Here.
Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Present.
Mrs. Smith.
Here.
And then Chairman Smith.
Present.
Thank you, sir. We have a quorum. So I'm going to say welcome to our city council member and liaison, Mr. Paul Battle, as well as our deputy city manager, Mr. LaVorce Pace. Thank you for joining us this morning. The first item on the agenda, Chair, is the approval of the minutes from the June 15th meeting.
We'll entertain a motion.
Move to approval.
Second.
Okay, any questions or corrections or comments? Okay, roll call.
All right. Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Drury.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries. As part of the minutes, one thing that we need to do is ratify the electronic meeting minutes from all of the meetings that we've had electronically. We do not have to do these by month. We just need to do them all at one time, just so you know. But we need a motion and a second to ratify those minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Barber.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Drury.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Drury.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we will have our financial update from Ms. Patty Phillips.
Good morning.
Morning.
You'll notice we put both May and June in your package. I just want to review June. Of course, if there are any questions at any point, don't hesitate to ask. But I do want to point out before I start June that the next couple of months, I'll spend analyzing the accounts with transactions during July and August that should have need to be accrued back into 2021. And so these numbers will change. These are not the final. Just wanted to point that out. And with that in mind, I will just start that you have restricted cash at Atlantic Union of $250,000, and you have cash and temporary investments at Town Bank of $532,992. So your cash has gone down some. They still have lease income receivable, primarily the hotel. And of course, the value of your capital assets, the land and security deposits, and then property held for resale. And we have a Schedule A that ties back to that number, that $19,250,000 278, 763. You have some liabilities. Some of them are just regular business type things. You have grants that you have approved but not yet paid out of 134,633. And you have the loan associated with property recently acquired of $1,700,000. So going down now to net position, unrestricted net position is around 12,868,744. As I said earlier, as we go through our analysis the next few months, that number is likely going to change. Going now to the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. Sale of land, $1,056,000. Cost of land sold, $2,003,000. So you've taken a loss so far. That does not account the sale that you closed on July 1st. So that's probably one that I'll accrue back to 2021. We have gone ahead and accrued rental income, even though you haven't received most of it. And you've got your typical expenses, development grants. You'll see down in non-operating revenues, you'll see the large contribution from Greater Portsmouth Development Council to land, which is a non-cash item. And you'll notice also that not only did you take a loss on the property, but some of it were originally CDBG monies and had to be returned back to the city. That's that 494,328. And of course, the rental income that's been accrued is also has to be transferred back to the city. So change in net position of 704,192 back to the net position of 14,328,421. There was also a chart. Okay, this one is just a summary of the land. Well, that looks like it's just one page, excuse me, of the land inventory. So more details should be in the package. Okay, go ahead to the next one. And this is a summary of the land sales that we have recognized so far. We summarized on the statement of revenues. And okay, so the next chart, please. This is the budget to actual. And the only thing that I want to highlight is, let's see, that we've gotten the contributions. This is PRHA, it's really Greater Portsmouth Development Council. And of the 3 million, and let's see, downtown development grants. Of course, the fees, transfer and recording fees. So where you are on the revenues, if you count the contribution of Greater Portsmouth Development Council, you're way over budget on your revenues, but that's a non-cash item. So technically you are maybe a little bit under. And on the expenditure side, you are under budget by a small amount. I know that's a very high level glossed over summary, but some people don't like to ask questions. So if you want to ask me privately, anytime. You got my email and someone knows how to reach me.
I do have one question. It doesn't relate to the budget, but I know in one of our discussions, we were talking about looking at some other banks to see what kind of rates we might possibly be able to get. Have we done anything in that area yet?
We have started looking at that. Right now, the, based on, let's see, I've got the chart right here. The yield on the money that we're getting at Town Bank is pretty good compared to the CD rate. And because long-term rates are expected to rise, we hope that would be a good time to make a transfer to perhaps a CD and to look at other banks. But I'm looking also at the Atlantic Union, and theirs is not much better. As you know, short-term rates are pretty pretty awful.
Right.
On the positive side of those rates, the city issued debt last month at very attractive rates. So it worked for us on the debt side. We've locked in those rates. Hopefully the investment rates are going to rise and we can jump on those, but we're going to continue to look at that.
Okay.
So thank you.
Can I ask on the downtown development grants, it shows that we have 48,000 left. That just hasn't been actually,
Correct.
Okay.
We'll have an update in just a moment here about what we actually have left, and kind of explain, where things are with regards to that. But that'll be updated. You'll see that once everything is updated for July. Chair, if I could, one thing that the board may decide to do, or may want to do, PPIC did this, another board certainly that we serve, or staff. They created an ad hoc committee to work with finance with regards to additional banking opportunities in financial institutions. So staff would make the recommendation that you create an ad hoc to work with staff. Certainly that would include the treasurer and then one other member. But in that way, there's someone working hand in hand and then ultimately come back to make a presentation on the different options. And that, again, it may be something just to watch now and act on later, but staff will certainly make that recommendation.
Okay. I'll be in touch.
Take that as a yes.
I'm sorry. And lastly, is there any update on the Renaissance on where?
What I will tell you is myself, the manager, along with Deputy City Manager Pace, are really looking into how we can wrap this up rather quickly in the next, I hate to give you a time frame, but I would say rather quickly, so that we can get back to zero, if you will, and figure out how we move forward together. Say it that way. Any other questions? All right. And that does not require a vote.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Next item on the agenda, Chair, is old business. And the first item on old business, this is a good segue into our local incentive program update. Mr. Donahue.
Good morning. Pleasure to be with you all again. Wanted to take this opportunity as we closed out the FY21 fiscal year in terms of a program standpoint to update you on where we are status-wise with the local incentive program. You will see up on the screen, we have your historical funding there for the program, and that includes, of course, FY21, which you were gracious enough to allocate $300,000 again to the program, and we're very happy to report that in this past fiscal year, we were able to almost allocate that in its entirety. So just approximately $298,000 that we were able to award, and that leaves $2,186 at the end of the fiscal year in the program. We go to the next slide. You may not be able to make this out, but these are the breakdowns of the 22 grants that we awarded. Some of the projects had multiple awards, so they could have received a facade improvement grant, interior build-out grant, potentially a safety and security grants. We did have multiple awards in some instances. But this is the full breakdown. We're happy to share this information with you outside of this meeting. If you have any questions, we can get you additional detail. I did want to point out the applications that are highlighted are in the process of being closed out. They were awarded in FY21. Some of those will be actually dispersed in the FY21 fiscal year as we're processing invoices and so forth. There are a few that have had extensions that you approved, I think, at your last meeting, which will likely carry over into the FY22 round. It's the same pot of money, so those will not, just because of timing, not get paid out in 21. Where we are to date, we have actually expended $171,000. So we're 129 or so is still being processed. And we will obviously keep you informed of the final status once we finish that out. If we go to the next slide, I did want to show just a few representative projects that we were able to fund with your support. Starting from the left-hand side was Le Mans Karting on Airline Boulevard. They were the recipient of a facade improvement grant, which allowed for them to paint the exterior of the building to keep with their brand and bring more attention to the property. As that is a destination, a lot of people come to Portsmouth for that facility as an entertainment use. So I think it's really done quite a bit to bring some visibility to their operation. In the middle is the new Bangkok Garden Boulevard downtown on High Street at 301 High. They did a complete renovation and really kind of transformation of that property. For any of you who've been there to visit that establishment, they did a really phenomenal job. They used both the exterior and interior build-out grant, and really it looks like a brand new restaurant there. On the right is a historical rehab that was done at a school at 441 Washington Street, a historic property that needed some significant exterior restoration. They painted the building and replaced and repaired all the windows, and that's now on the market for lease. And they are entertaining a couple of different opportunities. So kind of exciting opportunity to help along vacant property in the Old Town area. If we go forward just one slide, just a few other projects that we thought were notable. We had a business at 505 Airline Boulevard, Polar Snowballs. They went through a franchise change and also included an expansion of their facilities there on Airline. They had actually a large increase in customer traffic because of COVID, and they had outdoor dining space, which they've expanded to allow for additional dining there. They also utilize the interior grant to redo the inside of the property. So you'll see all new flooring, ceilings, and lighting that were installed. It was an older property. They really kind of modernized it quite a bit from what it was. And then last but not least, probably one of the projects I think we're probably most proud of this year. We're proud of all of them, but this is pretty significant for Portsmouth, and that is the Boys and Girls Club on Portsmouth Boulevard, their new Portsmouth location, which they have purchased, they now own, and the EDA participated by providing $50,000 in facade improvement and interior build-out grant funding for that property. It really looks like a completely new building inside and out, and really a fantastic facility for the youth here in Portsmouth, and they're providing all kinds of fantastic after-school and summer programming there at the facility. If you've not had an opportunity to go by and take a look, we could certainly arrange for that, but they did a really first-class job, and that was done with your assistance. I think, in fact, your organization, the Economic Development Authority, has its name on the placard of sponsors there.
Yes.
So just want to share these with you. These are not all-inclusive. We had others, but these we thought were very good examples, but we'd be happy to share more information if you have a question.
Any other questions?
I just think it's worth noting that probably the majority of the incentives have went to women and minority businesses in Portsmouth, which is really good as well.
Yes.
And that's something we'll continue tracking, as we develop new programs, and that was a good recommendation. We'll begin, reflecting that in the report as well.
Yes. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
All right, Chair. The next item on the agenda is an update from our local incentive program ad hoc committee. I'm going to tee it up just a little bit. The members of the committee, Vice Chair Mitchell and Mr. Barber, met with staff several times in the last, let's say, 30, 45 days to discuss the state of the local incentive program, you know, the successes we've had, challenges, questions, and I think we really come up with a program that is very inclusive and really focuses on what I think are the real desires of both this board and council. What we would like for the ad hoc committee to do is kind of give you a brief overview of what we think this program will look like. Certainly staff will chime in. We've provided a draft copy of the program for you. It's not necessarily to discuss today, but this is for you to take back home, really comb through and be prepared to discuss in August with the intent of having this, once we nail down the parameters, then put together an application and then having this ready to go effective January 1, as you all requested. But with that, I will turn it over to Vice Chair Mitchell, and or I'll say you're being pointed at, Vice Chair. Vice Chair Mitchell to give the update. To give the, just again, a quick update, and then we can answer any question that you may have. But like I said, what we will do is the thought process is you'll review this and be ready to go.
I'll just to give you sort of an overview, our current LIP program, as you all are aware, is basically a real estate improvement program with three components: the facade improvement, as mentioned, the interior improvement, and the security improvement. In the grand scheme of things, what we have done is sort of taken that program and sort of reframed it as a real estate improvement program with a maximum grant of $25,000 per project. And so all of the eligible activities that are currently in those three programs are now eligible in a single grant program. And some of the elements of it have been expanded a little bit to include some additional improvements that could be made. But in addition to the real estate improvement, what we are suggesting or proposing is two additional programs. One would be for startup businesses and fledgling businesses there with a grant amount of up to $1,000, and they would need to go through the business training program here or an equivalent business training program, develop a business plan for that funding, but that can be used basically to help them get them going. The second new program is basically for emerging businesses, what I call ramp up, that have been in business for just a short period of time, that are wanting to expand their business, and this grant program would be help them with software, equipment, marketing materials like that. And again, would require some outline of a business plan or marketing plan that would support the request for their funding. And before businesses that basically, I think 3 to 7 years in maturity, and would require a small match with the maximum amount of grant assistance of $5,000. So those are the sort of highlights of the major changes that we had. I think it would allow for a larger number of businesses to participate in the program, provides greater flexibility, hopefully, to the businesses there. I'll turn to staff. I appreciate all the work that the staff has done to pull some disparate thoughts together and bring them into a consolidated program proposal for your consideration. What have I missed, Malcolm?
No, I think you covered everything. We tried to cast a wide net, even including home-based businesses, and were considered as well. And I think it's an outcome of not only some of our discussions over the last year, and I agree the staff has been really cooperative and really worked with us on this. And I think we've covered everything, machinery. But if you take a look at it and you see any eligible activities that are not on this list, please bring it to our attention and we will certainly take it under consideration.
So we can add real quick, Chair.
Yes.
So yeah, in summary, listen, we had we took a deep dive as best we could to make sure again that we had a program, and it's now really a program We called it the local incentive program before, but it really was a downtown development grant program is what we had originally. What you have right now is and we're still working on the title, but a business investment program where we are investing literally in these businesses in one way, shape, or form. Again, your typical in real property investment type of grant for facade improvements, interior improvements. Instead of $50,000, the max is $25,000. And the reason that is because we found that the average grant was about $12,000. So if you take the two together, it's about $25,000 that we're giving out. Plus, you can help more businesses, because if everyone came in for $50,000 and you all set aside $300,000, you only help 6. But again, we're seeing that, as we saw on the previous slide, we've helped 22 different businesses this year, just with that program itself. So we're saying keep that $300,000, but let's revamp that program and be more specific, because I know we've had some questions about, there's a gray area on certain things that are approvable or not. And we'd like for you all to weigh in on that again come August. But then we wanted to make sure that we are assisting those we're talking small businesses. And when we talk small businesses, we are not using the definition of 500 employees or less. Okay, I believe we did it as, was it 10 full-time equivalents?
Yeah.
So you could have 20 part-time and that would cover you, okay? But ultimately, to keep it simple, the thought process is for businesses that have been in, or companies that have been in business for less than 3 years. If you go through our boot camp, which we have a boot camp through Ms. Kroom and our Portsmouth at Work Development Center. That program is free, but you go through the program. It takes about anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how long you want to sit at a computer. But after that program, you end up with a loan-ready business plan. So your skin in the game is going through that training, and that training teaches you how to start a business with less than $1,000. The EDA is taking it a step further and giving them that $1,000 once they complete all of those requirements for businesses less than 3 years in business. For businesses that have been in business longer than 3, but no more than 7, we're probably at a point, and we did the 3 years because most small businesses are either going to survive or fail within 3 years. But you get over 3 years, but no more than 7, you're eligible for up to $5,000, but there's a 20% match. So you put up 1,000, we'll give you 5. As part of that, however, you have to show how this money will be used. Also, it's still a for all intents and purposes a reimbursement when you think about it, because let's say someone comes in, for example, and they want to ramp up their marketing, so they want a new website. Websites cost more than $5,000. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's another item on the agenda. But you come in with a plan. We're working with X company to ramp up our presence. It's going to cost us this amount of money. We're asking for the 5,000. Okay, you're going to put up 1,000. We're good to go. This is a way to help companies pivot. This is a way to help companies, re-energize and revamp themselves. With what we see as a changing times, a changing market. And it also allows the EDA to really focus on, again, those small, women-owned, minority-owned businesses in the city of Portsmouth, and really help them take it to the next level. That's really the thought process. So we'd like for you all, again, to take this. This, again, is a draft. Mark it up, think about it, read it, come back in August. Prepared to talk about this so that we can, again, from there, put the application together and then ultimately have this ready to go for January 1. And from a funding standpoint, and this could all change, the thought process was, again, $300,000 still for the real property. Staff recommends $100,000 for the smaller grant of 1,000, and then another $100,000 for the $5,000 grant. So you can help a significant number of businesses. I stand for any questions, and I think certainly the ad hoc will as well. And if not, we'll talk about it again in August.
I do have a question real quick before we get off the subject. On the real estate improvement program,
Yes, sir.
how are the properties identified for improvement? Are we making suggestions? Are they coming to us?
So what we've looked at is there are opportunities where we can really market it to folks. Because some properties,
And
as
they
you
may,
know,
they may think it's fine, but.
right, they may think it's okay, but we need to, and maybe they haven't been cited, but hey, did you know about it?
Right.
So yes, sir, we are looking at marketing
Great.
to those businesses as well.
Just one minor correction. I think the startup grant program was, we increased it to 2,000.
We did per Mr. Barber's request. They wanted to do 2,000. So again, we have no problem with you spending you all's money. So 2,000 is again, if you think about a small bit, a number of you all in here are business owners in some way, shape, or form. And could you imagine what you could have done in your first 3 years with $2,000 and all you had to do was go through a class? That's all we have.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. I think this is going to be very helpful and useful. And, you know, from some conversations with the city manager, she's also amenable to helping us in some way or not to, we all know that Portsmouth is a small business capital of the region. And it's very important that we make every possible opportunity for folks that want to participate. And I think you've covered a lot of things, a lot of issues that folks run into. One of the bigger things that, you know, they run into, and there's no secret, and I can say it, you know, is the fourth floor. And I think even some help is going to come in that aspect also from some conversations with, you know, the city manager. She has some plans and some ideas too. So, and it'll fall right in line with some of this, especially with the folks that are new and don't have a clue as to what it takes, you know, to go through the process, to save them time and effort. So I think so far, I mean, this looks very good, and I just encourage everyone to go over it, you know, pretty good, so we can really discuss it a little more when we get back together. Any last comments or questions?
Well, I'm particularly excited about the startup part that you added to it, and I was thinking about the committee that Catherine and I are on, and I think it will work really good hand in hand, because I think that sometimes we just wait for businesses to come to us, and I think we need to kind of have an idea what type of businesses we would like to attract here and be able to offer some type of incentive to it. So I'm excited about it and hope that we can make smart investments and increase it.
Yes. Okay.
All right, the next item on the agenda is your retreat. We are very excited. Staff is very excited about the retreat that we have planned for you all. So excited that we have several speakers slated to come. We will have a moderator, so forth, to make sure we stay on track. You know, as you know, I don't do a lot of talking, so. But Mr. Face is looking at me. What we found, what we have found in putting this together. The original date for the retreat was September 28th. As you can imagine, now that I'm going to contradict myself as soon as I say this, but as we started to open back up, we in the industry, economic development, are starting to have more meetings, more conferences, things of that nature. That week of the 28th, there are several different conferences going on. As a matter of fact, staff is slated to travel during that week as well. So we would ask, and we are asking that we move the retreat to the 21st, which would be right after your meeting, which is the 21st is your scheduled meeting date. We would have it again starting at about 10 o'clock, go until 2, same time. We will still extend the invitation to PPIC, but from a standpoint of all of the speakers that we have, the 21st is a better date, especially as well for staff. So we are asking that we revise this, move it to the 21st directly after your meeting. And then again, we're looking forward to what we think is going to be a robust discussion about the EDA moving forward.
I'm fine with that, but I thought we were doing the 21st as our strategic planning. So are we not going to do a strategic planning before the retreat then?
No, what I think we could do is we could move that to the August meeting.
Okay.
That was going to be my next suggestion. I didn't want to go down that without, you all certainly agreeing to the 21st first. But yes, we could move that to August, especially since you are going to be talking about the investment program in August as well. So I would anticipate your August meeting being a lengthy meeting, and then again having your retreat on the 21st of September. Again, that's to make sure we accommodate the speakers that I think you all need to hear from.
We have a consensus. Any other comments, questions about that?
The only comment I have is I know for the strategic meeting, we have been talking about laying the city out and looking at it in terms of sectors and what the strengths and weaknesses were for each sector. Will we be able to do that in August? Are we prepared for that? Okay.
So what we will do is in advance, after this meeting, you will receive a link to the Build One Portsmouth, the comprehensive plan, which actually lays out the city from a zoning standpoint. So you'll know, I know you want to do sectors, but I think if you see it how the zoning lays out, that'll probably set your boundaries a little bit better. But yes, staff will be prepared to lay that out and have that conversation. The majority of that conversation we anticipate will be, as long as we can legally do it, will be in closed session, just because I think you're going to start talking about strategic acquisitions, so on and so forth. But the thought process is that may be a more loose discussion with maybe laying out some things on the table, so on and so forth.
Sure.
So, but yes, we can have that in August and prepare you for the 21st.
Everybody nodding okay for that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then we will put this again in front of PPIC, and we're hoping that those members can join as well on that day.
And let me just add to the PPIC will be attending, and normally at a retreat is primarily for us, EDA, but we will extend, because a lot of them are new, and we will extend the opportunity for them not necessarily have input, but questions if they have any misconceptions, they have any comments or whatever. We will allow them to participate at a certain level in our meeting too. So just to give you a heads up, because all of them are new, and they will be listening to a lot of things, and if any of them have any burning questions or want us to reiterate some things, then we're going to allow that. And I felt you all would be okay with that. So
Are they having any kind of their own, more like training, retreat, whatever, prior to this, since they are so new?
So initially what we attempted to do was have a joint retreat. However, PPIC asked that because they were new, they would have theirs a little earlier, and they still wanted to have theirs, and we did theirs in May, if I'm not mistaken. We focused on the industrial side and had a speaker come in from Tallheimer, Cushman Wakefield, to talk about the industrial market in Portsmouth.
Okay.
But I think this is going to certainly be beneficial for them as a group to see certainly how this board handles the development side of things, as they certainly want to be more engaged. So I think it's just going to be a learning experience. We're educating on the fly kind of situation. But I think this will be certainly beneficial for them.
yeah, and we do it at somewhat of a risk, but our facilitator, will be, giving a heads up, and she'll know what the game plan is also, so she'll help keep things on the field If not, we kick them back.
You have questions, comments? So we have.
I'm sorry, my only comment would be, I just think that we all need to be prepared in August, because I think there is a lot that we want to talk about that we've discussed. So I just think we all need to be prepared that it should be a long meeting.
August will be a lengthy meeting.
Our regular meeting, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would ask that certainly staff has an idea of the agenda, and we've brought in several speakers. But I would ask if there are any items that specifically you would like to talk about, if you could send those to us as soon as possible. And that way, one, we can prepare them for August, and then certainly have them for a discussion item in September.
Could you send us the list of speakers that you are proposing?
Yes, sir.
Didn't we send you, Malcolm, a list a while back?
You did.
Yeah, we did.
Okay,
Just want to make sure that that is
Okay.
the.
I'll look at what I sent.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it'll be a loose, I'm gonna say, agenda that we'll send out to you. That'll showcase the speakers and why they're there. But I think we've got something that's, again, typically staff is not necessarily excited about retreats, but this one we are. Because it's gonna be very informative, and I think with the windfall that you all will have here soon, with the monies from the casino, with regards to that sale, there's some opportunities there to do some things and do some great things in the city. So that's all we have on that item.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is just a reminder that we will still have the joint meeting on the 28th, okay, with PPIC. That is their meeting, but we will still have a joint meeting with them on the 28th. And I think that will be timely, just because you probably have some follow-up questions from the retreat. Again, staff is slated to travel that week, so we're gonna be, balancing some things, but we're looking forward to that as well. Again, the PPIC will have their typical meeting, and then we'll do a roll call for a joint meeting with the EDA.
What time does their meeting start?
So as of right now, their meeting is at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
We are
8 a.m.?
8 a.m. We said the same thing. We have proposed a new meeting time. As of yet, that has not been accepted. We will talk about it at their meeting next week. Fingers, toes, everything crossed. But right now it's 8 o'clock.
Okay. I don't understand. Okay, we're going to have a joint meeting with them on the 21st. Is that correct?
The retreat.
Retreat.
Yes, sir.
But what is the purpose of the 28th joint meeting?
So I think the 28th really gives you an opportunity to talk between the two boards and strategize. Let me back up. As the chair stated, the 21st is you all's retreat. This is your kind of strategic discussion. You're going to have a discussion in August as far as, hey, this is what we really want to focus on going forward. Then the 21st, I think, kind of sets the framework based off what you all want to do strategically. Here are all the folks that give you that background information so you can now, have a level playing field. The 28th was really for you all. You got your strategic plan in mind. The 28th was for you all to sit down with PPIC and say, here's what we think we want to do. Let's have some conversations about how we can work together to make that happen. While again, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chair, while the PPIC will participate in your retreat, this is really your retreat and your strategic basis of how you're going to do things going forward. The 28th was really intended to, what do you guys want to do? Because literally how it's going to be set up is EDA is going to be on one side of the table, PPIC is going to be on the other side of the table. Let's have a discussion. They have goals, you have goals. How do we make those align kind of situation? That's not the discussion at the 21st. It may seem redundant. We're trying to make sure it's not, but That's the thought process. Did I miss
Yeah,
it?
and that's correct. And that 28th meeting will be the opportunity. They've heard a lot from us, and those that had questions had that opportunity. Now, this is the time for whatever. I mean, whatever comes up. I'm pretty sure it'll be an agenda, but I'm not saying it's going to be a free-for-all. But if they want to get into more detail, even about some questions that they had about how we do things or what's coming up or our plans, that'll be the meeting that is just primarily for them and us to listen to them and interact with them. My interpretation.
So it's just going to be a clarification of, I assume, roles and responsibilities and identifying areas where appropriate, we might be able to work together.
Right.
That's what I'm gonna try to do.
Yeah. All you can do is try.
That's it.
Could you give a broad overview just for a quick second on what the PPIC does and their difference? I mean, I know like if we're looking to bring in a company, are they doing that also, but just, ports related? I mean, because I would think we would be too.
That's
Let's start with a little history.
so, yes, okay. So, history. The two boards actually at one point were one board, okay? It was the IDA, the Industrial Development Authority, okay? And that was not uncommon throughout the Commonwealth. Every locality had it. And then legislation changed and a number of them, including Portsmouth, separated off and separated duties. And you had an economic development authority and typically some type of industrial authority, okay? Or a port authority. Portsmouth had the port authority. At one point, the PPIC, so that port authority board, actually ran the port at one point, okay? Their roles are similar. Their powers are similar. There are certain things that, PPIC does, especially when it comes to industrial revenue bonds, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, the PPIC should be focused on those port-related industrial users and businesses.
So like BASF that was over there.
BASF.
Okay,
The heavy side.
The heavy
Got it.
side, the heavy industrial.
okay.
That doesn't mean EDA cannot, but typically that's how it's been separate. EDA is the catch-all for everything else. So your commercial, your multifamily somewhat, that other side of economic development. Do they sometimes cross? Yes. We'll talk about that a little bit later this morning. But for all intents and purposes, you both can do, you can give out loans, you can take out loans, you can provide incentives, so on and so forth. The way staff has utilized the PPIC and EDA respectively and recently has been when there are grant opportunities or incentive opportunities that are associated with industrial uses, we typically go through PPIC. So for example, Preferred Freezer, now Lineage. When we were recruiting that company and we went through the state for their Commonwealth Opportunity Fund, there was a match. It made sense for that to go through PPIC. Okay. We have a particular company coming that we're going to talk about later this morning. That discussion makes sense to have with the EDA. But even though it is warehousing and distribution, there's a reason why it focuses on the EDA. Okay. We try to make sure it's equitable. It's not always going to be that way, just because there is that crossover. But for all intents and purposes, that's the way to think about it. They handle the heavy industrial side. You all are the catch-all for everything else.
And one of the drivers is who manages or who owns the property.
Yes.
And that's why in the situation with Fairlead, we own that property, the North Pier. So that's why we stay involved. So that's how it kind of can overlap sometimes.
Correct.
Can we get just for their an inventory of what properties they own?
It's really, it's one.
Yes, the small,
Two.
it's small.
It's two.
Okay.
3920 Burton's Point Road and 3930 Burton's Point. And I won't go into a lot of detail because I think this is a good August conversation. But those two properties are the properties that they own. One of them, 3920, has been remediated, cleaned up recently through the EPA. And again, I will tell you that this board is engaged, and they have a desire to acquire more property. Again, the other difference is going to be from a funding standpoint. So as far as how much money do you all have compared to how much money they have. So there are some differences, but I think this is again a great starting point for the discussion we're gonna have in August in closed session. Any other questions?
Clear as mud, right?
Yes, it's gonna be even clearer in August.
And Robert kind of directs some of that too, as to, what the staff thinks,
Right.
the way the direction ought to take PPIC and so it could change.
It does bring up questions. I mean, I was thinking, oh, that land that we bought over outside of Shea Terrace, I was like, wouldn't that be them?
And it probably should be. And it just comes down to a lot of times.
Yes, where it is.
Right.
Who can afford it, that type of situation.
I thought, yeah.
So, any other questions?
And let me say this too, that's why, hopefully, we'll be able to utilize funds, from some of the new development, especially the casino, because, we can really strategically take advantage of some opportunities that we haven't had to attract, and that's why I asked the staff to kind of look at what it would take to make some of these places that even we own as woods and we pay a lot of money to get it cut. And if we made it, user ready, we could save us money on maintenance and landscaping. And also folks will look at it because when folks see property like that, they automatically think that I've got to clear this. I've got to, they don't even know the full extent of the property because they can't see it. I mean, they can get a plat, from the appraiser, what I'm trying to say, the city assessor, that'll give you an outline and tell you the dimensions and all, but what you can see a lot of times goes a lot further than what you see on a computer paper. And if they can, like all of those properties over there by Newport, now, they're about 5 or 6 valuable properties, probably worth $12 million, and a lot of it's heavy woods. Look at the casino site, so, and that's what folks that have money do. They make property ready for folks to drive by and they notice it. And so hopefully, we will be allowed to utilize some of the funds that come our way to do things like that. And in return, it'll save us some money too with maintenance. We're getting calls, from and Brian, too, from folks that are calling about, once the weather changes, everything's grown up. And then with the pandemic, they got behind. So those things could help staff and us getting the calls. And I just know too many people, so they call me a lot of times because they see me and want to know they want to know who owns this property. So most of the time, some of them, a lot of them belong to us.
Any other questions? Okay. Last item of old business. You all should have heard, if you hadn't, should have even seen it on the sign on the billboard on 264, that we had a hiring event through our Portsmouth at Work Center. And let me start off by saying I am very, very proud of the team, especially Ms. Pam Kroom, who put this event together. This will be one of 4 events. We plan to have events quarterly. We will have, one main event, similar to what we have now, and then every quarter we'll have smaller events in the community kind of situation to really focus on hiring folks. But I don't want to steal Ms. Chrome's thunder. I'm gonna let her run through some of the information and demographic information that we have from the event. Ms. Chrome?
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Moore. As Mr. Moore stated, we had the hiring event on last Thursday at the Renaissance. Well received by the community. So we have some information for the event. We had over 40 employers participate. Even our partners were hiring, so they counted as employers because there's not an entity that is not hiring at this point. So healthcare was our largest industry represented at the job fair for various reasons, not just for nursing, but for the various categories within the healthcare industry. Transportation and maritime were closely behind our healthcare. Maritime had a ship day previously on Wednesday at Military Circle, so we didn't have as many of them because they have identified some dates. They're also doing a peninsula event in August. But transportation, of course, even though they weren't largely represented in the room, are hiring at a fast pace. Everyone needs CDL drivers. We had an employer that was actually there offering a $10,000 sign-on bonus for CDL drivers. So our transportation industry, of course, can't pull drivers off the road to represent at a job fair. So if you know anyone, especially looking for career opportunities, transportation is a great pathway. Next slide, please. We had 122 participants. Portsmouth residents were the largest category. We did have a few that came all the way from Richmond. So that actually speaks to the caliber of the employers that were in that room, that individuals were willing to drive all this way to come to a job fair. So I think that speaks volumes. Next slide, please. Our largest participant age group was 36 to 45. Not surprising, individuals have lost jobs during the pandemic, so they're re-looking for jobs. Our other age categories weren't far behind, our 26 to 45 and our 46 to 65, which I'll get into some of that reason why with the next slide. Well, not the next one, but our participant race was mostly African-American and white. We didn't have any other categories listed on the sheets as participants. Next slide. So the vast majority of the participants were employed. We saw the bulk of our participants around that 11 to 12:30 timeframe, which pretty much speaks to they were on their lunch break. It was their lunchtime to be able to come by. It also speaks to the fact that individuals are looking to change careers. They're looking to better themselves. They're looking for more self-sufficient, sustaining wage jobs. And so the employers that were in that room were those types of employers. So what that says to me is that we need to have a good focus on career switchers and helping them understand where their resources and services are in order to help them in their employment search. We had entry-level employers there as well. We didn't have a lot of entry-level participants, which is okay. We think we will capture them when we're doing those quarterly job fairs, which will be in the community. Those will be spread out across Portsmouth in more targeted type areas and targeted employers for the demographics for that particular area. And I think that completes my update. And thank you very much for the opportunity. We couldn't have accounted for the fact that child tax credit was going to be released that day. Either that was big news around the room when we were there. But it does show that there are individuals looking for jobs. Our employers were very happy. I will have an update for you on their thoughts on the job fair. As well, they have a survey that they are completing. We've already heard from a couple of them who were very satisfied. Lineage Logistics saw 20 individuals, had a real strong candidate on site that they interviewed. That was the other thing, they were able to interview on site. There was a room which they were taking advantage of for those that wanted to try to get individuals employed as quickly as possible. So.
But was the city of Portsmouth part of that?
Yes, yes. The human resources, fire, and police all had a table.
Any other questions, comments?
I heard good things. So thinking that the quality of employers was really good. Do we have an idea, this kind of maybe out there, of the amount of unemployment and underemployment we have in Portsmouth? Do we know those figures?
Yes, and so we are tracking those figures to see what is the impact after each event or activity. We're not far off in the region. I think we're 0.2% higher than Chesapeake and Norfolk. We're sitting at about, it was about 4 to 6%. The state isn't putting out that information. I actually had to go pull it from the Bureau of Labor. So we hope the data is correct. The state is keeping up with the state, just understanding we're coming out of a pandemic and there's so much unemployment. And after a while, an individual drops out of the percentages. So if you've been out of the workforce, you're no longer counted as unemployed. And so not knowing where individuals actually lied before the pandemic hit, the state stopped tracking. They've only been focused on the unemployment applications.
So as you can see, we have a gem in Ms. Crum. And again, I can't say enough, certainly all the staff worked on this event, but Ms. Crum has been heading up our workforce development side of the house, if you will, done a great job at putting this together and doing this. And Ms. Crum does not do a lot of bragging, so I have to do it for her. We have a gentleman, Ms. Crum, you correct me if I'm telling this story wrong, but this is why we do what we do in workforce development. We had a gentleman that had been incarcerated, had not completed his high school diploma, came through our program, ended up completing all the necessary requirements to take his GED. Has he taken his GED? He has taken his GED, passed his GED, also took our assessments, and is now going through training to be a pharmacy tech. That's a big deal. When the gentleman, when we were told, I mean, because we had happened, myself and Mr. Donahue had walked over to talk about something else with Ms. Crum, and the gentleman was there. He couldn't contain himself. I thought something was going on. But he was excited about the fact that he didn't know, he wasn't even aware that he had the skills to be a pharmacy tech. And so for someone coming that was incarcerated before, made some poor choices earlier in life, was able to come in the span of, let's say, a month, 2 months, get his GED, and is now preparing to change his life significantly in the form of being a pharmacy tech. That's a big deal. That's the impact we want to have with this workforce development program. And we couldn't have done it without Ms. Crum, seriously. So I just want to let you all know that we're going to keep doing this work. You're in the product of what you all allowed us to do and helped us to do. And certainly city manager at the time, Mr. Pace, and current city manager, Ms. Angel Jones, have helped us to do. We're only going to get better. These stories are going to get better, and we're going to have more of them. So we're excited about that. So I say again, Ms. Crum, thank you.
Is this person a citizen of Portsmouth?
All participants are citizens of Portsmouth.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a great story to tell.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
I won't put his name out there. He's been here faithfully. I mean, when you get someone motivated.
I mean, we're not trying to divulge, situation, but that is an excellent story.
Yes.
That is the reason why we use PCTV to help people understand what's going on in the city of Portsmouth and the benefits of being a citizen of the city.
Yeah.
So that is a great,
We'd love to figure out how
that's
we
a
can
great
put that
profile
out.
to tell that.
If he's gonna brag, we're gonna brag.
Okay.
Okay,
There we go.
so we have another participant. He had been living between homes in Portsmouth, between Portsmouth and Chesapeake. He had worked in the maritime industry, couldn't get himself quite on track. He's been dropping in and out of classes at TCC. We were able to get him back on track with TCC. He finished out his classes, the class, he had a test to take in order to obtain the certification. He was able to obtain that certification. So he went from making no money to now making over $25 an hour with Kiwanis. And he bought a car. So he is our poster child, in my opinion, and he is willing to do an interview.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, y'all gotta stop, because
I don't want you to have your
us men are breaking down.
Right. We don't want to do that.
Us real men,
Yeah, we got.
it's getting tough.
It's napkins right now.
Every single person, 1, 2, it doesn't matter. Even if it's only one, is worth all of the investment in your time. And we're not in church, but I say amen to you, for the work that you've done and the effort that you've put in, and Robert and all his staff, what they've made this to be. And they're just getting started, really. They haven't even been a full year yet. And
That means 6 months.
so exactly 6 months. And so this is awesome. And that's why we, even in the ribbon cutting, I made the statement that we just starting this. We want to expand. We want to be able to get a bigger, better place even. And I know some of the members feel that same way, because they say it all the time too. So the sky's the limit, depending on our council and our city manager. And I know, Mr. Battle is all over this kind of stuff and on board too, because he can tell you some stories of things he's done. So this is just fantastic and good news.
I part of what we did with the city council retreat, the council wanted us to create the Portsmouth Proud series to tell, to serve as testimonials as to how people are benefiting in Portsmouth and how proud they are living in the city. And so those testimonials, we can start a series of Portsmouth Proud that focuses on how people are really benefiting from these programs as well. So I think that's incumbent upon all of us.
We'll start to talk about it. Get together and talk about it.
A lot of times we talk about criminal elements in a city, and we want immediate relief. But what we fail to understand is this is a 50-year process to get to this point. That means year after year after year, we take money from our development of our human element and invest it in our business processes. But when you don't develop your human element, you're going to suffer and you're not going to be a successful city. So I'm very elated and thankful that you all are taking this approach. I am also implementing this to the best of my abilities in all sectors of our cities, of our city. Now, we don't need the same things in every corner, but whatever they need to develop in our human resources, I'm there. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So Chair, that is all we have for old business.
Okay.
New business, some quick project updates. As you see on your agenda, 3335, 3345, which is the piece of property at the corner of Greenwood and Victory Boulevard, has sold. We have closed. You have about $973,000 after closing costs in your account. We've checked it 3 times. Just want to make sure, I mean, that large amount, we got to make sure everything.
That was quick since the last.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So so we have it's about 973 and some change that went in there. Very excited about that. If you go out there, they're already moving dirt. They're already developing the site. Some other quick updates that are not on this slide, but what I will tell you, adjacent to that property, as you know, is the casino property. You should be, we have not gone out and checked just yet, but that work should have started yesterday. So you will start seeing the pond being moved to create the lake feature on that site. Literally the fences and things were scheduled to start going up. Construction fences were set to go up yesterday. So you're gonna start hearing trucks back up and trees come down, things of that nature. So we're very excited about that.
Of course, that's not the Golden Skillet, is it?
No, Golden Skillet is across the street.
Okay.
Directly across the street.
That's the old Earl's Market site.
Okay.
So just wanted to give you some quick updates on that. That is the 6th property in, was it the 6, 5? Sixth property in about 6 months that you all have sold, gotten back on the market, so forth. And so we're very excited, a lot of activity. And that's why when Ms. Phillips went to that one little block that only had a few properties in there, it's not a lot left that you can sell. So again, that's why we're going to get into that strategic conversation in August. But wanted to bring that to your attention.
And let me say too, just a comment. This is another car wash on the corner. This is Riptide, not the Go Green like the other 5 or so. And a lot of folks are, asking another car, they don't understand the times and how folks value their vehicles. And you see the hand car wash places right across the street. I don't even think they're gonna miss a beat because of the volume of cars at these car washes. And these folks wouldn't be coming here if they didn't think that, it was a demand. We can get saturated though, but hopefully we won't get to that point. But because folks are just asking, I know they asked me, well, what about just like the self-storage places at one time when I was on council, looked like we were getting saturated with those. And there's a big demand for those. So, but again, just to comment, in case some of you may have forgotten that that's going to be Riptide, which is a different car wash, but similar to the ones that's being built. They have a whole different concept, like Auto Bell.
I have a question. Is there a grant available to the hand car wash so they could fix their facade and compete with the new business that's coming across the street from them?
Well, that would have to be part of the application process. Whoever the owner is, if that's something, we could share with him, and if he wants to apply for that.
Yeah. If I could just add one comment, and you're correct, there is a car wash coming to this property. But in addition to that, there are 2 other parcels that will be developed as part of this project in its entirety. So we could have some retail. We've been speaking, I believe, with some financial institutions as well. So there's some other opportunities for development to occur on this site in addition to the car wash. I just want to make sure you understood it was more than just a car wash. Yes.
Right.
But yes, sir, from a grant standpoint, certainly you all get the program in place. Potentially come January, they could come and ask for a facade improvement.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, last item on new business. At the same time we had the new hiring event, we launched our new Portsmouth at Work website. One thing that we've made a conscious effort to do over the last, let's say, year and a half is really focus on the branding of this office and making sure that this is truly the smart move for business. One way we've done that is making sure we upgraded our, what my marketing manager continuously says, our collateral. So our marketing collateral and materials. So we have now launched the new Portsmouth at Work website. It is a and I know Mr. Pace gonna get upset when I say this, a standalone, I'm gonna use the word separate, but not separate from the city, but a standalone website for Portsmouth at Work. The reason we did it that way is because while this is a division, if you will, of economic development, that really needs its own landing page, its own focus, its own everything. We're very excited. We've had rave reviews about it. Ms. Beatenbaugh is quick on the draw and bringing it up on the screen there. Very straightforward, about what it is, what Portsmouth at Work is. Signing up is easy. Tells you all about the trainings, everything, and it dumps them right to us. And we can track who's asking, who's talking, who needs what, when, and why. The reason why we're also excited about this is just a start, because we are revamping the Access Portsmouth VA website, which is the economic development website, to be more user-friendly, more interactive, and so forth. That should be launched. Ms. Beatenbaugh, I don't want to upset you. Where are we at on that? Was the end of September?
End of September.
So we will have 2 new websites to really push forward the agenda of the City Council, of the EDA, PPIC, and more specifically economic development staff, to showcase Portsmouth as the smart move for business. I would ask you to go look at the site, give your input. It literally is portsmouthatwork.com. Can't get any better than that. But you can sign up, everything, and we get all the demographic, information, everything that we need right there. And then the folks end up here. I mean, and I can tell you just about every day that since this is opened, we've had 2 people, at least 2 people singing at the computer lab there, signing up for a job, doing some type of assessment, doing some type of training, so forth. So we're very excited.
And that's linked to our site and the city site?
Yes, it's linked to our site and the city site. So if you, I'm gonna have Jessica go back very quickly. If you bring up the site, you will see at the top of the page, Portsmouth Economic Development.
Yep.
You click it, it'll take you to that site.
Right.
And just to speak to the main site, that interfunctionality will continue. So that way folks can go back and forth among the various sites, make sure they land on the information that they're getting. And that'll be continually tested to make sure that that user journey and experience is seamless, solid, and they're finding the information they need quickly and in a way that's digestible and accessible to them.
And this shows very well on your phones, your laptops, your iPads. So we made sure that it works properly, because most people access things now via their mobile device. So but we're very excited about this. All right. We do have a need to go into closed session. Yes, ma'am. Nope, I'll let you do that.
As you saw on the website, we did also launch the Small Business Center as a component of the Portsmouth at Work. We are partnered with the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity. They will be running a series for Portsmouth businesses under their moniker Time to Scale Up. Those webinars start August 17th. They'll start with doing business with the City of Portsmouth and the Casino Project. That is an EDA day. It hopefully will begin. It begins at 10 on that day. These are recorded, so they will be available for individuals that are not able to participate. August 31st, we'll have financing options with the Virginia Small Business Financing Authority. September 14th will be the Virginia's procurement system, so growing your business utilizing government contracting. How to become SWAM certified will be September 28th, and we'll do the federal side October 14th with the SBA and Virginia PTAC, which is the federal certifications and contracting opportunities on the federal side. So once again, we'll send this information out to you all. But we're very excited about that partnership and being able to bring these opportunities to Portsmouth.
I mean, let me say again, we haven't done this. When I say we, the city, Mr. Pace, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We haven't had anything like this as long as I've been in Portsmouth and as long as I've been in the region, which is all my life. So Portsmouth does not put this type of push and focus on workforce development. And to have a hiring event within 2 months of opening the Workforce Development Center that has over 40 employers and has over 120 participants, that's a big deal. And you all should be very proud of the fact that you all invested in this to make that happen. Just want to reiterate that. Any other updates on that? Okay. We do have a need to go into closed session. I think Vice Chair Mitchell has the.
I move to go into a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711A.3 for the purpose of discussing the disposition of real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding 409 McLean Street and 219 Pavilion Drive.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Any discussion of the motion? Okay, Mr. Barber,
All right.
Ms. Drury,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yeah.
Mrs. Barbara Smith,
Yes.
and Chairman Smith.
Yes.
All right, we are in closed session. So if I can have staff leave out, and then, do we need to take a quick break? Okay.
Really?
Jessica, when you leave out, could you close the door behind you? Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
This conference will now be recorded.
I hereby move that each commissioner certify that to the best of his or her knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Any discussion of the motion? Okay, Mr. Barber?
Aye.
Ms. Drury?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Saunders Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes.
We are in open session. All right, the first thing back in open session, we would need to approve the extension for 409 McLean Street to December 31st, 2021.
Move for approval extension.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Barber,
All right.
Ms. Drury,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes.
All right. That has been approved. Next item is items submitted by board members.
And let me start it off by appointing Anthony Brown to work with the treasurer on the ad hoc committee that he suggests. Is that all right with you? Okay.
And this is for the financial.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I just went through this on the YWCA board. I was on that committee and we interviewed banks and went through all of this.
We think staff feels this is the best way to do it, just because of our relationships with the banks. We don't want to have a conflict of interest. And we don't want to lose friends by choosing one over the other. So we'll let you all do that. So we'll make sure they'll take that.
And what are you calling that again?
That was the question I was gonna have for you, was the financial services ad hoc committee or something. Because we have a business development, which also have to have Ms. Drury and Ms. Saunders Smith. But we call it financial services, whatever you call it.
Services. So certain, clear again, let's make sure that they understand, because we stuck on a name, but so they know what they're gonna be doing.
So the process, you all would meet and work with
Ms.
Ms. Phillips to interview other financial institutions to determine what is the best rate and the best place to hold, financial institution to hold you all's money. I would also maybe expand that to say other financial vehicles, including
So this, for financial services, it should be okay.
Yeah, I think it should be okay.
Financial Services Ad Hoc Committee.
Yeah.
So that's what y'all are calling.
Okay.
Somebody's talking about you.
All right.
Neil,
Mr. Chairman, this is the first meeting in the fiscal year. And as I reflect upon what has been accomplished over this past fiscal year, it has been really astounding and extremely forward-looking. And I think that I just want to commend the other members of the EDA and the staff for what I consider to be just a banner year. And I don't know how we're going to be able to top that this coming year, but I sure hope that we do.
he better.
Wow. No pressure.
He better tell him, Paul, he better top it.
And just as like that, I think, I don't know whether we do an annual report or something like that, but I think it would be good to do a sort of a brief annual kind of summary of what has been accomplished this year.
I think
That's
they do that.
one. Yeah, so we.
They normally do that.
Yeah, and I think you correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Barber. We look at it as when we talk about our investment, we talk calendar year. And we have a annual report that is out by the time the state of the city happens. This year was a little different. We are in the process of finalizing our end of the year video, which talks about all that investment. And typically, yes, we would have some type of paper glossy thing to put out. We didn't have that this year. So we will going forward have that. But yes, we want to make sure that we highlight what has been done by staff, what has been done by the EDA, PPIC, to really talk about, and showcase, another banner year. I mean, so that you all know, this is your third year. Last year was your third year with triple-digit investment. Okay, you had $435 million in new investment in the city as of calendar year December 6th.
As important as that is, and I think the change in direction that the EDA has, way we've moved the battleship this year in terms of the new things that were there, I think is equally as important and will yield us equal. It may not be in terms of the dollar volume, but in terms of impact on people's lives, it probably will have a greater impact on.
Yes, sir. What I think we can do is certainly make sure that there is a, we can look into, just so we don't duplicate things. Again, you all certainly operate off of a fiscal year, and there may be a way to at least put out some type of, I'm not gonna say newsletter, but something that highlights this fiscal year. Yes, that change in direction. Yes, that focus of the board going in this way, that way. Yes, sir. We can certainly do that. I will tell you, again, no pressure. You're on your fourth year of triple digit already. I'm not gonna tell you the number, but I can tell you it's not well on your way. We're already in triple digits of landed new investment for this year. So you'll have your fourth year in a row. Will it be 435? Don't hold my job today. But it will be, again, we're already at triple digits. So we're very excited about the trajectory, and we could not have done it without the board such as yourselves, certainly city council, city manager at the time, and the city manager now. We couldn't have done it. I mean, we just couldn't. We just talked about you selling your sixth property in 6 months. I can't tell you the last time the EDA, this EDA, or any EDA that I know of has done that. And put money back in CDBG. You put money into you all's financial bank accounts and institutions, and you put several properties back on the tax rolls. And for a city that over 50% of the land is not taxable, you just put a big dent into that percentage. So you all certainly should be very proud of what you all have done.
Well, there is that property like right over there.
Yeah, that's the strategic conversation. Let's focus on that. No, listen, that is something that we definitely will have to talk about. is the waterfront. And that again will be another collaborative effort. It'll be I think ultimately a public-private partnership, public-public partnership, because we're gonna have to work with certainly council and city manager to get that done. So, but that's gonna be the next thing we take on to make things happen. Then I'm concerned because I don't know what else we got left. So,
And that's why we need to be in a position financially to go after certain key properties that can enhance the opportunities, and we need to have the resources to do that. And hopefully, council and the city manager give us those resources to be able to do that, where we won't have to, go borrow, and things like that, but we can just stroke a check.
any other comments? Thank you for that, Mr. Barber. Thank you.
I just had one question.
Go ahead.
I saw where the state is doing broadband everywhere in Virginia.
Yeah.
How does that impact our broadband initiative in the city of Portsmouth?
So the majority of the broadband, and I know what you're speaking of, the majority of the broadband that you're seeing is especially in those rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you that the monies, I don't know if there's so many different names for it, but basically the CARES money, the Recovery Act money can be utilized for that as well. That's certainly up to the discretion of council and the city manager and how that plays out. That doesn't, I think, affect our initiative. We're one of the few that already has that. You're talking about areas that don't have broadband like at all. Right? Compared to us, we have certainly, quote unquote, a competition because you have two providers. But at the same time, we have the opportunity with our fiber ring in the ground to be a player, if you will, and certainly maximize the opportunities for our businesses and our citizens. And I know Mr. Ringer has been instrumental in working through all of that with Jeff Miller and council from the broadband authority standpoint, because your broadband authority is city council, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think we're gonna have several conversations, which we've already had at council probably in the last 60 days, a couple meetings and discussions. So I think you're gonna see a deep dive with that, but I think that doesn't affect us, but I think that enhances our conversation as we start focusing on things, because what that does is it makes rural areas more attractive for business, because now they're going to end up having that broadband in there that, and I'm talking, that's going to be some extensive broadband. So we just got to keep making sure we stay focused and on par and going forward. That's really what's come down to.
Just curiosity, we were, if I recall correctly, part of the Sonic Ring there that didn't come down to the community college and like that. Has that been completed now and it's operational?
So everything is, I think we're majority as far as in the ground, physically in the ground. I think that's majority done. Don't quote me on that. But then you've got some other steps with the broadband authority, then deciding on franchise agreements, so on and so forth. Those are conversations I can tell you that are being had, just because you have Dr. Garcia and his data center, which again, a property that you all had closed, blah, blah, blah. We need those things to come online so that everybody can benefit from them. But I mean, like I said, it's from a standpoint of effect, cause and effect. It's making areas like a Danville, like a Pennsylvania, who has like a industrial park, so on and so forth, makes them more attractive. That rural area starts to become more attractive in the western part of the state. So we've got to take it and try to use it to be competitive in our own way. Mr. Ringer, did you have anything?
I was just going to say that Roanoke actually already has their own authority, and they've had it for a while, and they've been using that and building out in Roanoke and Salem, and they've gotten a lot more businesses because of that.
Let me say, under your leadership, Mr. Moore, this body has become an aircraft carrier with a superior rudder. And I'm very proud of you guys' efforts and the direction you're going and the competitiveness that you bring. And I'm most excited that you understand that we have a superior strategic positioning this city. And therefore, we don't have to pay folk to come here. They will be knocking their doors in to get here. And you're doing a wonderful job. All of you. Thank you.
I tell them that all the time. I don't care what they say about it.
Got that on board in my office. Any other comments by the commissioners? Items to submit?
And you notice, let me say this too, we did add Port back.
Yes.
That's a new item on the agenda just for his benefit.
Yes.
When y'all do want information back.
Yes.
Now, he doesn't give it to you before that, but.
Yeah. And typically, when we do report backs, what we like to do is report back at the next meeting, just because that way everyone hears it. And while you may want the information certainly earlier, and certainly if it makes sense, we will do that. But with everything that we've got going on, there's time associated with. You can understand we do more than just the 2 boards that we have at this point. So, but typically, if you will ask us a question from a item submitted standpoint, we will report back the following month with that information. So, for example, and Mr. Donnie, you correct me on anything that I'm missing. Ms. Drury, you asked previously about the 700 Crawford, which is the breeding property or deal. The update we have is that right now that's on hold. Still under contract, but just up on hold right now. We'll continue to work through the processes and see what we can have come out from that. But that's the update, for example. What else do we have, Mr. Dunny? And I apologize, I didn't have it right in front of me.
Vice Chair Mitchell had a question about the utilization of property, EDA-owned property on a temporary basis while we're pursuing development opportunities. And we did speak with the planning department about that. There are some opportunities to do that. And I think what we would like to propose is perhaps at your retreat, having a representative from planning and zoning come to talk about what you can't do on the property temporarily. There are some zoning requirements and some limitations in terms of what defines temporary, which is basically 30 days or less. But they would be willing to come and present maybe what your options are, what types of community benefit types of uses you could implement in the time being while we're trying to develop property.
Temporary day use like rental?
Probably more something, I think what was proposed, Mr. Mitchell had suggested something like a community garden. Right. Or was there some other community benefit use that could
until the property actually sold?
Or recreational uses that could occur on a EDA on property until we have a development underway. So
but it could
like a car show, for instance,
it could
on a vacant lot.
Yeah, it could include that too. They're going to talk about all of it because it can be broad, providing, the circumstances.
Right.
So one of the speakers we will have will be Ms. Julie Chop, recently promoted to principal planner. And Julie has been Ms. Chop has been a great resource for us in helping us get through a number of processes. She was instrumental from the zoning side in working with the casino to getting that done and approved through council on that side. So we're excited about having her because, again, that'll answer Mr. Mitchell's question, but also you'll be able to discuss the broader questions of, what we all may have ideas about things. Mr. Mitchell, for example, has increasingly asked about pop-up shops, pop-up opportunities. That's going to be the time to ask, how does that work? How would that work? How could that work? So on and so forth. So again, we prepared for 10 to 2 for your retreat. No one in this group, y'all might pray all day kind of thing. But we're excited about having Ms. Chop here for that. So, and then there was one more. Was there not? Report back.
I think we addressed that earlier.
With the clearing of the property.
Part about clearing property.
Yes.
Something.
Robert, one thing about the use of property until it's sold, For Parks and Recreation, as you know, where we do Sunset Thursdays at the foot of High Street, we are quickly growing out of space for that. I mean, the first concert, of course, the first one was canceled with the rain, but when we had Bill Deal's Rondales, we had over 2,000 people there.
Right.
Rajaz last year had about 4,000 people there.
Right.
And so we are looking for places, maybe not this season, but probably next season, to relocate Sunset Thursdays because of the number of people that's coming.
Yeah.
And we don't want it to, we don't want to reduce the number of people that come.
Right.
Because it's a great event and people like to attend it.
Right.
And so the goal would be to try to find another location that's someplace on the waterfront. Now, granted, Sunset Thursdays would be great on the waterfront. And so that property that we're looking at to possibly do that is the old Holiday Inn. I mean, that is the perfect place because it's right there on, near my.
We are, I'm not gonna speak for the board. I would say no issue, long as when we need you to move, you
Right.
Oh, yeah.
temporary.
Yeah,
But certainly,
Go for it.
Right.
I think that lends itself to, again, strategic conversation. But I think certainly when you start talking about performance venue, and you start talking about things on the water,
Yeah.
that may be something that this body needs to look at. You all own the property, but as part of that mixed use development, as we discussed, should there be an entertainment venue of some type that takes advantage of that location?
Yeah, one of the things that one of the things that we unfortunately do not have that Norfolk had, of course, Norfolk decided that even though the Town Park was lucrative waterfront property, they said, this is going to be the people's park, and they designated it as that. So they don't have the issue that we have in terms of location and venue space in downtown.
Right.
We're not saying that we should do it because Portsmouth needs every piece of property we sold and can get. But as we continue to look at how we do promote and produce events, we really need a location that people can automatically say, okay, we know this is where we're coming, other than the pavilion. And the problem that we have with the pavilion, of course, is because we have a contractor that manages that.
Right.
And so whenever they are looking for artists, we don't know when those concerts are going to fall.
Yeah.
So that will create an imposition for us to have to move it every time it conflicts with the same date. So.
Yeah, I would love for us to do
example. I spoke to Mr. Pace recently last week because I was trying to do an event at the pavilion, but the rental rate is so high, it would cost me $65,000 to rent the building.
Right.
At the 10% that they want for rental fee versus so it's very unattractive to do events in the city. And and as a commissioner, as a resident of the city, it was my absolute total passion and intent to do the event in Portsmouth, but there's no facilities that accommodate.
Right. Yeah, I think, again, this certainly leads to something we were going to discuss in August / at the retreat. But when you look at the opportunities that were, I'm not gonna say lost, but the opportunities that, we have to make up for with No Will It Hall, for example. If you had something like that as part of an overall development down, I'm just gonna say downtown, then especially in a mixed use type of development on the water, I think it lends itself to that. And my only concern is that you get people down there for Sunset Thursdays and then they want to be down there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and don't nobody want to leave. But again, I think that's the perfect space for it, temporarily. And then, we'll work out a lease rate, stuff like that for the city. So, you know what?
We're not gonna pay you.
Let's go from here.
So you're gonna send this all out, correct? Before the retreat, like the zones and about downtown.
Yeah, you're ultimately gonna receive the Bill 1 Portsmouth comprehensive plan, which has everything as far as comprehensively what the city is looking for, what the things are zoned for, their maps, the tables, so on and so forth. Then we'll also get you the most recent Crawford Gateway revitalization plan, which I think gives you kind of a roadmap to where we were originally and I think where we can go. Also the zoning ordinance itself, We'll send you the zoning ordinance, and we'll also send you a breakout PDF that has the use table. So you know, based off of the zoning, what could potentially go there, whether via by right or via use permit. And then I think that gives us a framework and gives you a lot of reading. But gives you a framework for when we start talking in August about that. But I think we're all saying the same thing. We have key pieces of property. Whether it's down here, whether it's down here, we got key pieces of property that we need to develop. And that are our next focuses. I mean, let's be clear. And so these are all great topics for August and September.
You know, we ever talk about City Park? I mean, that's an incredible venue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're studying, y'all studying.
They are really studying City Park because part of, as you all know, Boulevard is our premier golfing venue.
Yes.
And the Links, of course, is not the venue that compares to Boulevard. So at some point, they're looking at the rounds of golf that's being played at that location, and then looking at that property and seeing what it can be in the future. But you're right, they have expansive views of the water. It's beautiful out there. The problem that we have is whenever you host an event there, parking is always a problem. We have very limited parking.
You have the same issue right here as well, because you can't, that's the oldest parking garage I've ever seen in my life.
Well, and see, but the thing of it is, what we get at High Street Landing is people don't even use the parking garage. The fact that they can park on either side of the street and walk, they're fine with that.
Yeah, okay.
They hide.
And if they're willing to walk.
And they are.
They do, you know, and that brings, you know, I was walking around Thursday doing some campaign for a candidate. Half of those folks didn't even live in Portsmouth. Everybody I talked to, there were some folks from Elizabeth City because of the Rondales, Elizabeth City, of Maryland, from Richmond, I mean, Norfolk, Suffolk. I mean, I went from person after person asking, are you a Portsmouth resident? Because I wanted to give them something. And half of those folk there didn't live in Portsmouth.
Well, we do a comprehensive campaign in order to promote Sunset Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the fact that people are coming from other cities, I can tell you, and I mean, you probably should have a reason to claim something, but we say that the Sunset Thursday concert series is Hampton Road's most exciting weekday concert series.
Yeah.
Because we find that people that come, they're from everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I get people from my hometown in Smithfield. They talk about them coming to Sunset Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's great and it's caught on very well. I mean, I think that being on Thursdays is a good thing because people know they don't have one more day for work.
Yeah.
And then you had two,
in the day.
Right.
yeah, you had two super food trucks from Shrimp Shack and the Virginia Diner.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Who knew that Virginia Diners got a food truck?
Yeah.
And they were nice.
Yeah.
I mean, large, huge.
The parking lot that's next to right on the waterfront there, I think that's supposed to be a stormwater drainage.
It was slated to be a stormwater drainage. I think council has revisited that. I don't want to speak for council, but I think last time they had an update, there was a discussion to, you know, revisit, you know, what that should or shouldn't be.
And whatever that was, that included that granted period. He's right, whatever council decides, but in that included a venue for
Yes.
entertainment. Now, not a large venue, but it did have some component of an outdoor venue there.
And I was thinking more like an indoor that faced the water.
Yeah.
Can hold. I'm talking like not to compare because I hate to compare, but something similar to like the Sandler Center almost.
Right.
That's you know, a couple thousand seats.
Yeah.
You know, and then that way you have venues a venue that does not compete with the pavilion, and at the same time you could have everything from graduations to everything there.
Right.
Do we own the old Willett Hall property? And is there a plan for that too?
Yeah, we had a plan for that.
Been a couple of plans.
Yeah, so
2-3 plans.
at one point that was going to be the and again we're getting off a little bit, but that was going to be the public safety complex out there.
Right.
But I think again with the conversation with this body and the liaisons we have, I think now is the time to have those discussions about start those back up again about who, what, when. Again, this is not going to be just, in my opinion, okay, it's just purely my opinion. This is not going to be a project that only the EDA runs or just council. This is going to end up being some type of public-private and public-public partnership, because we got to have, it's going to take a developer to develop these things. And it may take more than one. And it may take one big plan that we chop up in different pieces and say, developer A, you take this one, developer B, you take this one, and go from there. But certainly from the guidance with council and this board, we can make it happen. So, yeah. Mr. Barber, do you have anything else?
Yeah, before your time, Bon Secours were looking at it way back, and they wanted to do medical buildings, apartments, and that's before Willard Hall came down, and they were trying to piecemeal council way back for different parts of it, and council finally said, either you want to buy it all or leave us alone, and they left us alone. So.
Any other? Again, these are all going to be conversations we have.
I have a million things to say. I'll stay for August. Yeah.
Okay, so that famous line, all minds clear, which is never true, not a good thing to say. But thanks again for Councilman Battle for being here, and representing as our liaison. Folks don't know it, but we go back from teenagers, even though he's twice my age, but no, he's not. We've been knowing each other since, I guess, 10 years old, 10 years old.
When we played together, and he was, of course, in high school, I was in high school. His parents worked at night, and he had a sister who was very nice looking young girl. And I felt so proud because I was the only guy that his parents trusted to be in the house while they weren't there.
Wow.
With the daughter. And then, so you see, I always have good references.
Right.
Even as a kid, my references were.
That's what I'm talking about. So, I don't know how you end better than that. The next meeting is August 17th. Again, be prepared. That's going to be a lengthy meeting. Get 9 o'clock here. I think that's going to be a great meeting to discuss. We'll get out that information to you all here by the end of this week. So you'll have that. And again, if there are any topics that you all want to discuss, please send them to the chair and vice chair. They'll get them to us so we can put them together and make sure we're talking about everything you want to talk about.
Yeah, and thank y'all again for being here, and staff, everyone. I think it's been an awesome meeting as everything's just kind of worked like it should. And thank y'all for y'all support. I don't have so I got to do it like I started. Meeting adjourned.